This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the Dawson James Securities 4th Annual Small Cap Growth Conference 2018 in Jupiter, Florida. With me today is Leonard Mazur from Citius Pharma. It's a publicly traded company, and the symbol is CTXR on NASDAQ. Leonard, welcome to SNNLive.
Shelley, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you again. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Good to have you back. But let's get started with a brief overview for our audience on the company.
Sure. The company is a development stage pharmaceutical company that's engaged in the development of a phase 3 drug known as Mino-Lok for the treatment of central line associated bloodstream infections known as CLABSI or catheter-related bloodstream infections. Both of those terms are used interchangeably.
Now, what's some history on the company?
The company history is that it was actually the merger of two companies, one private, known as LMBRX, and then Citius, which was the public entity. That merger took place about 3 years ago. And the company basically got started by the private side of the company, began with the entering into a license agreement with MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, Texas, which is the #1 cancer hospital in the world, for the license of Mino-Lok, which is a drug that was studied at MD Anderson for the treatment of central catheter-related bloodstream infections. So LMBRX merged in with Citius because we wanted to take advantage of the public markets, although we had been funding the development of Mino-Lok ourselves with our own money. I should point out that to date, management and founders have invested $23 million of their own money. I personally have invested $18 million into the company, something that probably you won't hear from most public company executives. And that's not stock options, that is direct cash into the company.
What is the competitive advantage of Citius?
Where Citius has a real competitive advantage is that it likes to focus into drug categories where there's, first of all, an unmet medical need, and secondly, where we have no competition, if at all possible. So in the case of Mino-Lok, for example, there is no drug on the market today for the treatment of that infection. The only treatment that is standard of care would be remove the catheter and replace it, which entails 2 separate surgical procedures with an adverse event risk profile of somewhere between 18 to 25%, and can have devastating and deadly consequences for the patient. So, and there is no drug, as far as we know, under development or under study in this indication. So once this drug is approved, we will have the market to ourselves.
What is the target market and how big is it?
The target market is those patients that have catheters implanted into them. There are 7 million patients annually that receive a central venous catheter. Out of that total, about 500,000, approximately 500,000, the catheters get infected. So it is a sizable market. There is significant market potential. The rate of infection here is significant. But outside the United States, it's probably even more so, where standards in the hospital are of a lesser quality than they are here in this country.
What's your background?
My background is I have a bachelor's and MBA from Temple University. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. And basically, I started out in the industry with a company called Cooper Laboratories back in the 70s. Spent 10 years there, then went to BASF as a director of marketing, then to ICN Pharmaceuticals, which today is Valiant Pharmaceuticals, as a VP marketing, where I launched Ribavirin at that time. And then came back to the East Coast to be executive vice president for a publicly traded company known as Citius Pharmaceuticals, which had a very successful exit a number of years ago. And then I went at the ripe old age of 50, I became an entrepreneur. And at the worst time in your life, probably everybody will tell you, you take the greatest amount of risk because you have everything to lose. And fortunately, I was able to start up several pharmaceutical companies with very successful exits. And myself and the CEO of the company, Myron Halubiak, who has a great background also with Hoffman LaRoche, we got together and we formed a private company back several years ago and then merged in with Citius.
Now, from what you can tell me as a public company, what are some growth drivers?
The growth drivers for us will be the approval of this drug. I should mention we also have a second drug under development that's in the hemorrhoid category. It's very strange, but in the U.S. market, there are no FDA-approved prescription drugs for the treatment of hemorrhoids. You have the over-the-counter side of the market, which is dominated by Preparation H, and then you have prescription drugs that are prescribed that are known as DESI drugs, which are older drugs that were on the market at the time the FDA was created, and doctors are prescribing those older drugs that never went through any FDA trials. So the opportunity here for us is, we know it's a big category, 10 million patient visits, no approved prescription drugs, but our plan is, because it is such a large, massive category, would require massive resources to promote and market the drug, to out-license or monetize that drug once we complete a phase 2B trial, which we would anticipate completing somewhere in the course of 2019.
Leonard, let's get your website out there for more information for our audience.
Sure. So the website is citiuspharma.com. So that's CITIUSPHARMA.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leonard Mazur, Citius Pharma, publicly traded company. The symbol is CTXR on NASDAQ. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live from the Dawson James Securities 4th Annual Small Cap Growth Conference 2018 here in Jupiter, Florida. Leonard, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Shelley.